Athletic greatness comes in all shapes and all sizes. It doesn't come naturally, but is achieved from hard work, diligence, and adversity. Along the journey, there's opportunity, and there's always struggle. There is triumph, and there is defeat, and there is always a story behind the glory. Bobby Ardoin has done just about everything in the journalism business, and he's still producing compelling content, having made the shift from newspaper to online publications.
His creativity, his versatility is unique.
He sets a certain standard that so many can never achieve.
Back when newspapers had hard and fast deadlines, and here's a game that would end at 9:55. Bobby would have that story in by 10 o'clock.
Bobby, not often do I get a chance to converse with someone whose copy was set by a linotype machine. Not many people in the audience probably know, but certainly that goes back a while. You've been at this for well over half a century. 16,000 or so stories have come from your mind and your hands. Your skills are remarkable. Your ability to write under pressure, on deadline, cranking out award-winning stories in 10, 15 minutes is legendary, quite frankly, among your scribes. And I know you recently have found out that there is journalism heritage in your family, being adopted, and then later learning about your biological parents who had a very deep journalistic background.
Yeah, everything originates from my mother's side. I didn't know, I knew I was adopted, obviously, but I didn't, really have a big, I didn't really want to search for her that much. And when I had the heart attack and when I had the non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, I think my son kind of hit the panic button, and it's like, okay, what's in store for me? So he went to Ancestry.com, and just so happened they were having a 2-for-1 kit.
There you go.
And so he did his, he didn't get any matches. Mine sat on a coffee table for eight months. And my wife passed by one day and she said, you either take it or I'm throwing it away. So about a week later, I did. And I discovered after 73 years of, not knowing who my mother was, I'd located her through her twin sister on Ancestry. And as far as the writing genetics, I had an uncle who's written a fantastic book on World War II. Then I had a half-sister who died in October, and she was a long-time editor of a Travel Host magazine. I had another uncle who wrote lyrics for his church and did the music. I have a niece who teaches creative writing at a university in California. I'm talking to a biological cousin day before yesterday, and she says, I have a daughter who's a freshman, and guess what? She wants to be a writer. So it's evidently pretty prevalent and pretty strong.
You couldn't have escaped it if you tried, it seems.
No, and I had no, I did not know I was a writer or had any ability until I went to high school. And we were taught at AIC, which is now Opelousas Catholic, and we're taught by the Christian Brothers. Mm-hmm. And they were very strict, but they made men out of us because it was an all-boys school. And about my junior year, they started noticing some of the things that I was writing in class, some of the critiques and stuff like that, and they said, okay, this is what you need to do. And so then I started focusing on it.
He wrote for many years in his hometown for the Daily World and St. Landry Today, before beginning a stint in Opelousas Access Television, while continuing to write for outlets like the Baton Rouge State Times and the Daily Iberian.
Bobby can cover everything, and Bobby has covered everything. He's covered everything from high school, college, pro football, to murder trials, to city council meetings, parish council meetings. That's a unique talent.
He covers a national championship game the same way he would cover a Tuesday non-conference soccer match in St. Landry Parish. He treats it the same way, with respect and dignity, and that's why he's one of the best.
You're either gonna laugh at him because he's a grumpy old man and that's funny, or you're gonna laugh with him because he's got some off-the-wall story about some character he's covered or friends with. It's a kick covering games with Bob.
I know one of the most influential people who is a Distinguished Service Award winner, and that's Roger Brandt, former editor of the Opelousas newspaper. You and he were inseparable and did some great things.
Yeah, in 1972, Roger hired me to do basically everything he didn't want to do, but it turned out great because Roger was a great innovator, and people don't realize this. This is early 70s, and Roger was doing things like box scores, agate type, the quotes in stories. He was big on that, going down and talking to coaches, talking to players, things that you do today, but back then people were just writing stories from the press box and not incorporating quotes and everything. And so it really worked out well because he would basically do the design of the paper, write his column, instant replay, which was widely read, and I would do the writing, all the features.
You know, one of the things too that I truly admire about your career, it didn't matter to you whether it was Pee-wee football, whether it was youth baseball or softball, whether it was college sports, football bowl games, Super Bowl, Saints, you've covered them all. And then hard news as well as the business evolved, murder trials and political corruption cases and local government. I mean, you were and are a Renaissance writer, and that doesn't come easily to a lot of people.
Yeah, and I really didn't get into the news aspect until probably the late 80s when I started working with the Advocate, and they hired me to do everything in 7 parishes, and I wore out automobiles and tires and everything, but I covered everything, just as you said, from school boards, from city councils, parish government, and the murder trials. What you mentioned there is the aspect, it's all about people. And if you want to be a writer, you have to be able to connect with people. And the other thing, like I used to tell my journalism students, to be a good writer, you have to read good writing. And, I emphasize that all the time.
Well, you bring up a point that I think has escaped attention to the most part, and that is all during your journalism career, you also were an English teacher and a journalism teacher in schools and had influence over students in that regard as well. Not many people can have 2 full-time jobs.
Yeah, I was thinking about it several years ago, and I probably put 9 or 10 people into the journalism orbit, whether it was a writer, a photographer, a videographer. What happened was that all of that work translated into 60 and 80-hour weeks, because you would finish school and then it was the weekend in sports. And then you'd have high school, UL Lafayette probably, and then the Saints on Sunday.
Ardoin has received numerous awards for his work in sports journalism, along with 3 separate State Education Writer of the Year awards.
But he made the transition. He does things for websites. He does a lot of social media. He keeps the public informed, and that's the big thing that he does, is that he has kept up with the times.
When people need the news in St. Landry Parish, Bobby Ardoin is a name they turn to and a name they trust.
His lifetime commitment to a career would earn him a spot in the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame as a winner of the Distinguished Service Award in Sports Journalism. Well, I want to conclude with what you're doing now, because even at 76 years old, you're not retired, co-owner of the website St. Landry Now, and that keeps you busy and yet continues to serve the community that has endeared itself to you over the years.
Yeah, and it's kind of been hard for people to grasp the concept of online newspaper. They think a newspaper has to be print. And right now, if you look around, even look around the state, in the northern part of the state, people are starting up mom and pop websites just like ours. I mean, we're in it not to be media moguls. We'll never make a fortune, but we're subsisting and we're having fun. That's the main thing.
And you're serving the needs of the local people, which is not served by anybody else, and that's so critical.
No, because all of the larger papers around us, they have basically retreated from doing any local news. So, I mean, we're filling a gap, and our problem is we don't have enough space on the website every day to actually to sufficiently publish all that we need to publish.
Bobby Ardoin, congratulations on your induction into the 2024 Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. It's very well deserved.
Well, thank you. It's been as the Grateful Dead said, it's been a long, strange trip.
If you enjoyed this conversation, the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame Museum has exhibits and stories about Louisiana's sports greats. Natchitoches is where history and fun blend with our state's rich sports culture. Find travel planning tips at natchitoches.com.